So hi guys, yes, I'm almost certain that we realize this is not the topic we're going to be speaking about today, not this type of fishing in the Caribbean, right? But it is actually this type of fishing in the Caribbean, where someone is literally sitting behind your computer trying to get your secret information, and they've been doing so in such very very smart ways. I mean, just take this particular one, for example, John, and I'm sure you may have seen numerous of these. At a first glance, you probably would not even realize what's wrong with this particular page. But if you look at the address bar, you're seeing it's actually mbas.org.sg and not a Microsoft domain. And most of the times, we are scared into clicking on a link, in that email, and end up on this page and said, oh my gosh, I have to change my username and password now. And we get catch, even some of the, the experts, in the field, we can get caught sometimes. And in Trinidad and Tobago, we are not very far from that as well. I have some numbers here, some that seem quite staggering, 2016, 2017, and 2018 numbers of figures, that are in the hundreds of thousands and in the millions of folks that have been scammed, through phishing activities, right? What you would have seen there in 2017, that really, really high figure of 7.3 million, doesn't mean that, almost everyone in Trinidad and Tobago fell prey. There were actually two really, really big what referred to as whales that were caught in this particular phishing scam. And you'll probably find out a little bit more about that in the next few slides. So you have to know how to protect yourself from phishing attacks, because on a daily basis they get so much more sophisticated. So I have a little bit of tips here, and as John said, they genuinely present themselves as emails. However, before emails became as prevalent as they are, we used to receive phishing scams via text messages. I'm sure quite a few of us, questioned whether we did really have that long lost family in Nigeria who left us that inheritance. Because we were wondering, that few 100 million sounded like something we might want to get into, right? But emails are one of the initial signs, or techniques that are used when it comes to phishing attacks. When you receive an email and it asks you to click on a link, that link should really and truly, spell out exactly the place that you're going from, right? And if it's a shortened URL, what I would recommend is visit this website, unshortened.it. Check it out and make sure that that's, an appropriate link before you want to get onto it. I actually saw a question in the chat already, why it is that these guys use bad English, so bad grammar could mean a scammer, right? You're really not going to get an impersonal greeting from a huge corporation that's spending millions of dollars in their marketing campaign, right? And I have a really nice example after that will give you the anatomy of a phishing email. Now, this is something that we don't genuinely look at most. I don't think we have that really and truly in our nature to look at the website address, particularly to see if it's HTTP or HTTPS. And that's something that I want the folks viewing it on our chat today to be particularly aware of, right? And as John mentioned as well, these guys, they use so many different tricks and techniques to make us think, just by a quick glance that they are using a correct email address or a correct website address. For example, this particular website, email address, sales@maison.com, if you read it out, but they really want you to think that that's amazon.com, yeah? And of course, there are so many different tools that we can install, but generally the term that you want to look for is an internet security software, not only an antivirus or not only an anti-malware software, but an internet security software, because it comes packaged, with a whole host of different things, malware protection being one of them. So let's look at the anatomy of a phishing email, right? So at a first glance, this looks like an email from Amazon, but as I said, they're not going to be impersonal, right? So dear customer, listen, Amazon, I spend quite a lot of money with you. I think you know my first name by now, right? So they're not going to say dear customer. Secondly, they're going to use some sort of scare tactic, right? This paragraph is interesting because it says, in order to prevent any fraudulent activity from occurring, we are required to open it. And it goes on to say, hey, if you don't act now, you are going to be in serious trouble. That's a telltale sign, that they're scaring you into acting almost immediately. And the reason why is they want you to click on the link, right? They don't want you to read throughout everything and get all the details. They want to scare you and say, okay, I think I need to click on this link immediately. But they are also masters of using masked links. So even though I said, make sure they write out the link, but when you hover over that link, when you take your mouse and put it over, you realize that's not the amazon.com/ they're saying. That's a completely different link, right? And that piece of software that I spoke to you about before, internet security software, some of them will actually pick up those links and say, hey, we think that's a phishing URL that you're trying to visit there. Some other telltale signs, that's an uncharacteristic use of the logo. I think we all know the Amazon logo. Amazon knows that we all know the Amazon logo, and they're not going to blast it in our face like that as well, right? Some other signs here, we are requiring to open investigation. Say, what now? No, that's not good English. And more than likely, most of these emails are translated into multiple languages. They may come from a hacker or a scammer that may not natively speak English as well, right? So as Gervais said, it happens throughout the world. So this same type of email will go to English-speaking, Spanish-speaking, French-speaking countries. And this is probably one of the reasons why we get such poor grammar in some of these emails. So remember, bad grammar, it's probably a scammer. Now, here's another one that, we probably didn't pay attention to because no one really looks at detail into the email address, right? It's saying it's coming from Amazon accounts, but again, if you look at it, it's not an Amazon.com email address. Now, there may be some techies that are sitting on the call today. I know I saw some names in the chat, and here's another giveaway that definitely is going to pass, most people, but it's the IP address. This is not a real IP address, right? That will not resolve to anything. You can't have 456 in an IP address. But again, we are looking at it and saying, oh my goodness, they saw this IP address and it's coming from Africa. Yeah, it's all to scare us into acting, without paying too much attention. So that's the anatomy of a phishing email. It can look legitimate on the get-go, but there are so many different versions of this. And to the top right hand of this screen, I have a website address, cybersafettt.com/phishtank. And in that, I actually have screenshots of so many different types of emails like this that are from, the different providers out there. So feel free to have a look and be aware in case you receive any of those emails. Now, John did mention before that, there are certain types of phishing scams that target particular individuals, right? And these fall into two categories, whaling, and that's targeted to the executives and CEOs. And this is actually one of the reasons why, we saw that really, really huge figure, of statistics in Trinidad and Tobago before, because unfortunately, some CEOs of some multinational companies were the target, and they didn't do due diligence. They were tricked. Some of the emails were really sophisticated, by the way. And what I should let you know as well, it's sometimes not just one email. It can be a series of emails that is conversations, and you build a trust. So these guys really have, Gervais, probably nothing better to do with their time than try to scam the hell out of people, right? But as you said, if they can get through with $20 from 1,000 people, why can't they get through with 20,000 from 1,000 people as well? Yeah. The ones that folks like you and I might be more familiar with would be spear phishing, where we would receive an email that seems to come from our organization or our IT department asking us to change our password because it's going to expire. And often our policies are quite different. And our CIO at UWI always says that IT is never going to ask you to send your password in email. So please, whenever you get that email, do not respond, right? So if you are caught, you should definitely run a scan for malware. And there are quite a few bits of software that you can use. These are just some that, I know that works pretty well. Microsoft Defender generally comes built in with the Windows 10 operating system, and it does a fantastic job. And if you really want to go that an extra step, or you want to scan again, there are some other options here as well that you can probably entertain. Now, I personally believe that a weak password is generally one of the ways in which folks can get into our accounts. So I always encourage you to use strong passwords. And I know it's almost difficult, near impossible for us to remember all of these. So a password manager always helps. I think we are moving beyond passwords now and probably going into passphrases. And you can visit cybersafettt.com/passwords for a little bit more. But an example of a passphrase is, I love peanut butter. It's something that I remember. And, you just add a few numbers and characters, and there you got an extremely strong password that might be easy to remember. And on that topic of strong passwords, I'm just throwing this out here, just for reference, just in the event some of these passwords might look familiar to you. This was actually the top frequently used passwords in 2020. Yes, folks, people are still using these passwords. And look at the time to crack it, less than a second, I mean, it's really unfortunate that we still think that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is a strong password. That's not gonna get us, past the scammers and hackers anymore. Now, there's another technique that you can employ called multi-factor authentication, which is where, other than your username and password, you will be prompted to enter some sort of code that will come to your device via text message or some sort of authenticator app. And again, there's so much more we can speak about this, but you can again visit the site cybersafettt.com/2FA for two-factor authentication to get a whole lot of information on how to set this up. Most of the email tools, most of the social media tools, they have this facility and will really help, to prevent your platform from, becoming a victim of fraud. So lastly, and also kind of touch on what Gervais said coming down to the end, there are some other things that you should consider if you are a victim of a phishing attack. Have a look at your sent and deleted items. If emails might be being forwarded from your account without your knowledge, right? Always make a backup of your files. I mean, I think that's a practice that you should, try to do, because we are, living on our devices now. So we really need to make sure that we can continue and have business continuity on a regular basis, right? If you can, alert your organization that was spoofed. So if you receive an email from your work and that's a phishing email, send a message to the IT saying, hey guys, I think we have, a phishing attack that's going around in our company. Let's warn the other employees, yeah? You may want to do some damage control, because if your email was compromised, people might be receiving email from you, unbeknownst to you, and you might be asking them for some money or some help, and you really don't know, right? So you want to send out an email to your close contact saying, hey guys, I think I might have been a victim of a phishing attack. Ignore any of those, emails before. And watch out, most importantly, for warning signs of identity theft, right? So as we mentioned, emails sent on your behalf, fake social media accounts. I'm sure many of us, particularly those who are on Facebook, might receive a message from our friend saying, hey, that's a fake account for me. Don't respond to that, or ignore that account. I think that is also a byproduct of a phishing attack. And of course, as Gervais said, monitor your credit card statements, because they're really after the money, right? So alert your bank, let them put a little extra effort into looking at your statements if they see things that are not within your regular levels of transactions. So that's it for me. We do have, I'm sure we have a lot of questions from the attendees here. So I'm gonna hand it back over to Andrea, and let's see what we can get answered this afternoon.
Okay, thank you very much, Darren. And I must tell you, about a month ago, I got an email from a coworker, and that thing you said about bad grammar, probably a scammer, is definitely a fact. I saw the email and I was like, this doesn't seem right. I didn't click the link. I was aware of that because the link and the URL, everything looked weird, but I wasn't taking any chances, and I changed out all my passwords linked to that email address. It took me 4 hours one day and another 4 hours the following day. Tedious, but it's something that
well worth it, I'm sure.
Oh yes, I have not seen any attacks yet. I think I maybe need to do some more